Okay, so this is a interesting one, right? But do you ever have excuses from clients why they don't want to protest? You ever reach out to somebody, or you notice a value in a certain neighborhood is really high, and you reach out to them, and they're like, "No, I don't want to." What are those reasons?
Yeah, we get that often actually, and they're comical to us, but I understand where the client's coming from. One of the ones that we get most often is, I'm thinking about selling soon, or I'm going to sell and I don't want the value reduction to hurt my sales value.
Will it?
Um,
Can it?
it shouldn't, right? Because the value that the appraisal district is giving you is based on the previous year, previous 18 months, in fact, whereas what you're going to sell for is almost usually dictated on what an appraisal comes in for in the past 2 months from a professional fee appraiser. Um, so no, it shouldn't have any bearing on your sales value. In fact, if a realtor or if an appraiser, a fee appraiser for a bank is looking at your appraisal district value to determine, appropriate value, they're not doing their job properly. They're screwing up.
Yeah, the market's going to bear what the market's going to bear. I mean, your tax value is a reflection of market conditions from 12 to 18 months ago. Tax code says you can even go back 36 months. Is that right?
Some smaller counties, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So it has nothing to do with what your property would sell for today, and everything to do with what was the previous 12 to 18 months worth of market conditions, basically. The worst excuse I've ever heard for not protesting was, I just don't think I want to do it this year. I mean, I've actually gotten that one from people.
Is that just laziness, or is that
I
just
don't know.
apathy?
Maybe they talked to somebody on the phone and thought, like, I don't know, this sounds like a scam or something like that, which we're not. But I've actually had that conversation with people, like, I don't know, I don't want to do it right now, that kind of thing.
One of the ones I hear often is, well, my value didn't change from last year, so it's probably fine.
Or I feel like my value's fair.
I would say let's just say a 10-year stretch on any given property, you're going to be increased by the appraisal district 8 of those 10 years. Maybe 1 year it stays the same. Almost as unlikely is that they're actually going to reduce the value. So if your value stays the same from 1 year to the next, doesn't necessarily mean your value shouldn't have gone up, but it also doesn't necessarily mean that your value shouldn't have gone down.
That's a great point.
What are some reasons they won't change it? Like if they don't raise the value, or they roll it over?
Yeah, a county may not have a large enough market sample for your specific area. So if you're in a neighborhood code or a neighborhood area that has 500 properties and they only have one sale, for instance, they may have an internal policy that says, we can't revalue this property. We don't have enough of a sample to get an idea of what the market is doing.
Yeah, sometimes they just cycle different areas. And if it's a really big county, they might cycle different regions of the county each year.
When we had COVID, you saw, entire counties that would roll values, right?
That's right. There's always kind of like multiple aspects to how a reappraisal goes. And one of them is the market, but policy is a huge other one that we have no control over.
Yeah, you brought up COVID. That's a huge point. I mean, for all of 2020 and 2021, there were multiple counties that just did not revalue in either of those years, and it caused a huge catch-up event in 2022 that some values increased, 80% in 2022, and people were freaking out, didn't understand why. It's because the counties did not change the value in 2020 or 2021.
There was no incremental progress.
There's no
just all done at once. There was another instance like that where a county had a database issue with their appraisal system for 2 years in a row, and so they couldn't reappraise. And same kind of issue. You had people getting 70, 80, 100% increases in that third year because there had been no incremental change along the way.
Another one I hear often is, I don't want a target on my back from the county if I appeal my value.
I've heard that.
Not going to happen. The county is never targeting a specific person or a specific property. They don't have time for it. Again, they have like 8 months out of the year to revalue 1 million parcels of property.
But not even really that.
Yeah. Honestly, it could be more like 5 months, something like that.
That's right.
And so they don't have time to try and assess your value specifically and hurt you. They don't care.
What if
Yeah,
you,
and honestly, they don't want to. Like these are just people that live in your county. Like these are your neighbors. They're just trying to do a good job.
can you bring something up in a protest, or can a consultant do something in a protest that causes your value to go up that year or even the following year?
Yes and no. There's no way in a protest hearing to increase the value for that year. There can be instances where something comes to light in a hearing where the county had incomplete information. There is an additional feature on your property that they weren't aware of, and so they'll basically put a flag on your account to say we need to go look at this and make sure we've got it appraised accurately in the future.
And we're careful about things like that. Like
Yeah.
we make sure the clients that we're not providing information that's going to hurt the clients.
We're always going to be honest. That's we have ethical duties that we have to fulfill, but full disclosure is we get to be judicious about what we disclose, and we're always going to try and be careful and protect the client.